Hello and welcome to the DisruptAbility podcast. Today's interview is with Cork man Johnny Murphy, who shares his incredible story and also gives us a roadmap to disability in the 21st century in Ireland. Thanks for listening.
Jesus.
Johnny Murphy,
Yeah, yes.
I finally have you on my couch.
I know.
It's taken a while.
But sure, look,
You're here now.
it's quality.
It's
know
quality.
What I mean? Yeah, it's
well,
quality.
You got through security anyway, and we're here to tell the story.
Yes.
Johnny, I met you about a year ago through the Cork Access group, and you were so welcoming to me when I came in the door. And when I told you I was vision impaired, you were the first one to say, I'll give you a spin. Where do you need to go? Bring you back into town. Wherever you want to go. You were so understanding. That's how you do it. You get it.
That's how we roll. Yeah.
That's how you roll. And I now consider you a good friend.
Absolutely.
Johnny.
Absolutely. And likewise.
And we're both on the same page in terms of we want to see some changes around the attitude to disability in Cork and in Ireland.
Absolutely.
So I started the DisruptAbility podcast, and I would love you to tell your story, if that's okay with you.
Where will I begin? I suppose in 1990, I broke my neck off a motorbike. I was coming out of Carrigaline, coming down to nearly into Douglas and Carrishill. Bus pulled out in front of me, hit the back of the bus. Helmet broke my neck in two places. Passenger broke my back with a helmet, mad, in two places. So I was at the side of the road. They said I was dead. And luckily, what are the chances? There was a doctor nurse on the bus. They cut my throat here and gave me a trachea, put a straw, like a MacGyver, from, Capri Sun or something like that, into my throat, got me breathing again. And ultimately I was in hospital for 12 months. Very, very lucky to be rehabbed up in the NRH in Dunleary, to be able to walk, and got on with my life and got working. In fast tracking here, I know. Yeah. And got working, had my own business, car dealership, for 20 odd years. In 2011, I got ill again. It was like Groundhog Day. I was readmitted into the NRH again, like an NCT or a full engine job or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And here I am sitting on your couch talking about disability.
Yes.
Because that's my passion, I suppose I'll call it. That's my hobby. I'd like to see changes in people getting employed.
Yes.
I think there's an opportunity for businesses. I think there's an incentive for businesses as well that could improve. The more incentives that there is there, the better, and the more employers decide, hey, we'll take this person on.
Yeah.
You asked me a question earlier before we came on camera. What would I see? What would my vision be? How would we get this to happen? I think employers need to ask questions, and an awful lot of them. And don't be afraid to employ people with disability.
I think that's the big thing, isn't it? A lot of people, they're afraid. There's a fear around disability.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I see it now, I'm working in a garage again, just part-time, and enjoying it. And I see it, people are very, very afraid that they want to say something out of the way. If Johnny's hands are shaking with spasm or something like that, they kind of look away, and I'd make a joke about it. And that's my way of coping and dealing with it, and they're cool then. But it's all that kind of way. Like, there needs to be something that not only are the employers educated on it, but the employees that people with disability will be working with need to be educated on it. And it's kind of case by case scenario where Johnny doesn't mind someone saying, once I give him my blessing, Johnny, your hands are shaking or whatever, making a joke about it, or where some people would get offended
that's
by
the thing,
it.
because
And that's
we're all
a
different.
huge, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I suppose there's a huge opportunity for employers, because I've always said, because as you know, I served on boards in Dunleary on charities and stuff like that, and I've seen people with a disability so educated on disability. Like, you can look at a doctor or a clinician or any of them, and they'll maybe turn around to you and say, well, you have pain because it's X, Y, and Z. It's not until you speak to someone with an injury similar to yourself, no matter what it is, whether it's a vision impairment, whether it's a hearing difficulty, whether it's a physical disability, you start saying, actually, everything he's saying is dead right, or she's saying is dead right. I remember just a quick one. I was above in the charity in Spinal Injuries Ireland, and there was a girl working there, and she was looking after Facebook and Instagram and all that, and I was saying, geez, my hands, and I used to call it and said to doctors, my hands are numb, I can't feel it, and she says, that's called the snow glove effect. And she probably made it up, or I don't know, but it was absolutely spot on, you know. You go into a shop, you put your hand up for the change just falls everywhere. I used to smoke. When I smoked, I used to burn my hands. I couldn't feel it, like, do you know, so I gave up because they were getting annoying, like,
because of the nerve endings are damaged,
and it's
as a result of the spinal injury.
Absolutely. So nerve damage is done on my neck, it's called a cervical tree, and the damage is there. It's there forever. Probably the older I get, the more my body is getting older quicker, if you know what I mean. So if it was an ordinary 52-year-old, and I know everyone that's watching this is going to say, he's not 52, is he? But yeah, I am.
And so I nearly am as well. So, but we're gorgeous, aren't we?
I'm mint, like, I look in the mirror and
we're a good vintage.
But like, I'm 52. But my body is probably of a 70-year-old or similar to it, so my mobility is strained from it. So you know, it's handling it.
I know,
and
exactly
it's the other
what you're
factors,
saying.
like the factors that people don't talk about, that I have no problem talking about. You have bladder, bowel issues, and they're like, especially for women, especially, and men as well. That's wrong to say. It's so embarrassing. It's embarrassing, and you don't even want to speak to a doctor about it. But like, again, from speaking to people and being involved with people with a spinal cord injury, they're kind of saying, you know, you kind of leave it all at the door. If you have issues, you need to speak about them, because you can't suffer in silence. And I thought that was a great thing someone said to me.
Absolutely.
I'm going on a bit, aren't I?
No, this is perfect. And I can identify when you're saying about, you know, you have a 52-year-old body, but it's probably behaving like a 70-year-old body. I'm exactly the same with my eyes. When ophthalmologists look at my eyes, they're like, you're a 51-year-old, but you've got the eyes of an 85-year-old. You know what I mean? So it's the way our body is reacting.
Isn't it just amazing, though? And I find this as well, like, you know, people in wheelchairs have very similar issues than I have. And people say, well, you walk and you're very lucky. That's the exact same injury. It's just my muscles are slightly stronger on my legs to be able to give me the ability to walk. How long that's going to be there, I don't know. Am I going to be concerned about it? Not necessarily. What I would be concerned about is maybe being a burden on my daughter or whatever. When I get older and she gets older, you don't want that. Do you know what I mean?
I know, and that's why we need to make those preparations or think about what we do want at a certain plan B at a certain stage. If we can't live independently, that it isn't. I agree with you. We don't want to be a burden on our children.
No, and I think you know, governments need to look and say, right, we need to have kind of a care home setting for people with disability and people with disability alone. Like I've heard of a case there lately of someone in a care home, 32-year-old person, very high quad, and they were inside in a care home in Dublin. That's not right.
All right.
We need to get over that. We need to kind of crack whips and say, we need to get housing for these people. We need to get them sorted, if you know what I mean.
But housing that is accessible and that also has good security. But then if they do need like medical attention, that is there
and it's a phone call away, and there's enough carers to be able to look after them, because it's the independence of it. I know people that are high quads and they're working. One person was working for a bank, very nice gentleman, but the bank went away and they said, we'll give you your job. He had a job prior. It was a rugby accident he had, and he got his job again.
Yes,
I think that's great. Do you know what I mean?
But that's what we want to happen, right? Because the majority of people who get disabilities are like us. They acquire the disability between the ages of 18 and 64. So generally they're working.
Yes.
So as well as acquiring the disability, you don't want to lose your job as well.
And dealing with all the shite, sorry for using language, it's not shite, shite's okay. But dealing with all the shite you have, and that is stressful, and that is so difficult. And some people's tolerance is way higher than others. So some people unfortunately fall off a cliff and become very, very unstable, Jewel. And some people maybe, I won't say thrive, but cope.
I think cope. And I would say, from my own experience over the last 30 years of living with disability, most of the time, it's up and down, but there have been nosedives.
Oh, absolutely.
There have been nosedives, and I talk about it very openly, where it just does feel too hard.
Oh, it is, yeah. I agree with you.
And society doesn't make it easy.
Call me a person glass half full, but sometimes the glass is empty.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you're saying, Jesus, this is awful.
This is hard work.
Do you know what I mean?
It's hard work just
what
to keep
gets
going.
you by, though, just to get back to the work thing, what gets you by is actually being able to work.
Yeah.
Because, if you're having a bad day, pain would be a big issue for me. If I'm having a bad day, it's like someone said to me, it was someone with a spinal cord injury, it's like pain is like a child with a toothache, or us with a toothache. If you give someone something else to think about, the toothache goes away somewhat. Do you understand what I mean?
Distraction therapy.
Distraction, yeah.
Absolutely.
Fair play to you. I didn't think of that word, but very well.
Yeah. I use it all the time.
And
that's what we need.
What I mean?
So that's what we want to give is hope to younger people with disabilities. Say, if it has happened to you, it's a raw deal. It's not a good, maybe, deck of cards to get.
Absolutely
but
not.
At the same time, you want to move on.
Life isn't over is the best way
it's
of putting
not,
it.
No, it's not. And we want employers to have the confidence and the tools to employ disability.
And I think the tools is the right thing to say. And governments and councillors need to give them the tools they need. I think there's an awful lot to be said for, charity sector should get the finger out as well.
Right.
They need to say, if you have a charity for, physical disability, and they should train themselves up to be able to say, right, this is the training you need. If we can help you in any way. I do know the National Learning Network are very, very good at that.
Yes.
And I know all the lads up there, the instructors and stuff, and I find them very, very good.
They do, and they get jobs.
Yes.
And they're trained and ready. They're work ready.
And they care, and I think that's great. And rehab, because of all the crap that went through and that stupidness about salaries and stuff like that, I think they've cleaned up their house, and that's important, and that needs to happen in every charity, you know. And I mentioned to you off camera that I feel charities need to, and physical and mental disability, they need to be able to turn around, and all the charities, and I'm talking about every single one of them, they need to employ more people with disability, because you can't turn around and say, right, here's Johnny, he has a spinal cord injury, you should employ Johnny because he's great, right? But you're an able-bodied person telling this to an employer. That shouldn't be it. It should be a person with a disability, that the person that needs employment, you can actually tell him, this is where I think I'm good, and this is where I'm ghost.
I know.
And so if Johnny rocks up with a spinal cord injury and says, right, I'm working for such and such an organisation, we'd like you to employ Morris or Pat or whatever, or Mary, because this is what they're good at. But if you're the person with the disability, you say, okay, right, he's up and about, he's working, he's the ability to speak. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he knows exactly what this person can do and actually can't do, and they'll explain that to me. Whereas, shake hands, thanks a million for employing Pat or John or Mick.
Yeah, and
they're
give
gone.
The confidence to the employer, saying this is how to deal with
issue,
it. Yeah.
They can come back to that very person. It's like selling a car. If you have an issue with a car, you want to go back to the person that you bought the car off of, because you have the relationship with them.
Yeah, so it's kind of a supported,
it has to be.
Willing, able, mentoring, I think they call it. Prior to your accident, were you working in the car industry? I know you're working in the car industry now.
I was working as a panel beater and spray painter. Was it good? I don't know. It was so long ago. But that's what I did, and luckily enough, I had enough of contacts. in the industry that I got a job doing a bit of running around.
Okay.
And fair play to him, they took me on. He was a friend of mine, and work came from that then. So I got into the sales part of it, and eventually I became self-employed and ran my own little organisation for a good while, which I loved. Yeah, and it was great fun.
Okay.
See, I suppose the downside of it, when the downturn came in this economy, it put an awful lot of pressure on me to work because you couldn't afford wages. So you were down and you were saying to yourself, right, how am I going to cope? You were doing 60 hours a week. I was doing 60 hours a week. And something had to give. I remember going to my GP one day and I was saying, I am kind of fairly bad. My hands were shaking. My legs were weak.
But listen, the stress of running your own business and the economy going down,
And he says, if you don't pack up this week, you'll be in a box. So I said, okay. So you have to know your limitations.
You do.
No,
you do.
That was my limitation, and it was miles past my limitation.
Yeah.
And I suppose it was the embarrassment of failure that I didn't want to pack up. But it was going to kill me, like.
No,
and there was other family members I have to look after. I have a daughter. I have a mother still with me, and it was important that they'd see me. But that was a very, very distressing and tough time for me.
I bet you it was. But the best advice I ever got years ago was someone telling me stress will make any condition worse.
Absolutely.
And
fair play. And
right. I do get stressed and I do get anxious, but I have to be very aware of, okay,
it's so hard
your body's reacting, you're getting stressed out, and that's not going to help these.
Yeah.
So I have to remember to calm down the stress. And I would say that to any young person with a disability, really looking after your mental health and your stress levels and your anxiety, it'll really help
and
your
it's all
condition as
well.
well. We're all connected, sure.
And like when you look at it, like, getting back to the employers, and that's why we're speaking, I think employers out there are looking and they're saying, right, I take this fella on and he's a bit disabled, and will I be able to do this and do that? He'll have to look at, he'll be disabled someday, because that's the way it goes.
Absolutely.
Mobility will fail. Do you know
well,
what I mean?
That's what the World Health Organization says, that everyone
longer,
experiences disability at some stage, whether it's temporary or permanent,
or their family members, or their parents.
That's someone you
kids.
love.
Absolutely.
You'll experience disability.
And it is the way it is.
Yeah.
But what can we do?
And what you mentioned there is, as well, because we're living longer, not that everyone who ages gets a disability, but you're more likely to acquire a disability as you age.
Absolutely.
As a result of aging or an accident or
and I suppose a very good friend of mine, and I'm sure he won't mind me mentioning, Colm Hooley, who worked in the organisation, and I admire hugely, and is a book of knowledge when it comes to disability. Colm is a wheelchair user. But Colm said a great thing. He said, we are the first generation of people with spinal cord injury to live to this length of time.
Yes.
Colm is 60, I'm 52.
Yeah.
And there's kind of the boundary that people kind of snuffed it or whatever. So we have improved in health to kick the can down the road and make us live longer. How long? Don't know, but no one can say, I'm going to live for bloody ever, I'm going to make 100. No, you're not, like.
Yeah.
So
we don't know, and none of us know.
No.
But what's interesting as well, I think we're one of the first groups of people with disabilities who got a good education.
I think so as well.
And who are now able to speak up and be advocates for ourselves.
And
activists for ourselves. We're not relying on able-bodied people to take up the gauntlet. We're well able to say what we need and to make sure that the next generation don't have to fight as hard as what we did to get.
And I suppose what really annoys me is to hear people that are able-bodied trying to speak on our behalf. It really annoys me. I think it is insulting, and I do. That we are like, of all the people I know with disabilities, bar none, every one of them are highly educated. And that
well able to be assertive.
So they've so much to give to say. If you lose, we'll say, a leg or an arm or whatever, your sight, your hearing becomes better. Do you know that kind of way? Or your hearing goes, your sight comes better. But you use other assets in your body better, if you know what I mean.
We're compensating.
Compensated. I think she's great.
Johnny, I met you through Cork Access Group. Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about Cork Access Group?
Cork Access Group is around for, I think, about 25 years. I'm in the Cork Access Group about 6 years. It's absolutely fabulous group, as you know. We basically deal with access issues in Cork. I'm luckily enough as well that the guys asked me to be on a group with Cork City Council. So we go and if we see an issue with wheelchair parking or whatever, we go and anything we say to them, they take seriously and they address the matters 9 times out of 10. And it's a very, very good thing to actually have in the Access Group. It's a tight group, but we get things done.
You do.
And that's important.
And every disability is represented.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's about all accessibility issues in the city.
In the city. And our boundary has got bigger. And as you know, I'm after becoming secretary of the organisation now. And our body work for the next 6 months is get to grips. Right, this is our boundaries. This is our cut-offs. So that's a body work, and I'm looking forward to doing it, and I'm sure you are too, because it's a fantastic organisation, and there's good people at it. And again, you can see what we were speaking about already. People with disabilities actually doing best of class, because everyone there
is very committed. Everyone's very committed. I know. I'm really happy to be a part of it.
Even the elderly is represented, which I think is vital. So it is very good, and it's best in class. I don't think Cork Access Group is probably the best access group in the country, because I've heard nothing about any other organisation but our own.
And as you say, the relationship with the council is good. So if you identify an issue, they hear what you're saying and they rectify the issue.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that's really important. Those good relationships.
It's hugely important. And the changed issues there on parking and stuff around Cork, lately enough in the last 2 years, and our input was taken in by the Mercy Hospital. You can see all the parking there, and we were able to lead on that, and that was great. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Johnny, we're coming near to the end of our interview, and I just want to ask you, from your experience of working in the car industry, are there any particular tips we can give to employers to give them confidence to hire disability, to employ disability?
Ability. That's what I'd say. People are so able. You have to give them a break. You have to, government need to incentivize it more, but people are very, the ability of people with disability is unreal. Dedication. When a fella has a cold, he'll ring in, I'm sorry, I can't go to work. A fella with a disability, he'll go on and his leg hanging off. Do you know what I mean?
We're very resilient.
So that and that alone, and educate themselves on it.
Okay. And educate. Get the training, and don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid. Take them on, and governments and ministers and TDs, get out there, do it, because they're saying the workforce has kind of got to its stretch, and it's at nearly zero employment. Well, take on people with disability, and
and support us, and you'll get a great talent pool. Perfect. That's great advice.
It'll be less strain on the health service, because if they're occupied and their mind is occupied, child with toothache. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
So less medication. Do you know what I mean? Less visits.
Well, it's about being socially included, isn't it? And work as part of that social inclusion.
Mentally, it's so it's so good for you.
So good for you.
Do you know?
That's brilliant. Johnny, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I'm delighted that we finally got to do this interview, and I'm really looking forward to another year of working with you.
We'll do it in 6 months' time again to give out to politicians.
All right, so
all right.
We'll have that date. Cheers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye.
Please be advised that this recording does not constitute medical or legal advice.